Hey, yo.
What up?
It's been a minute.
It has been a minute.
It has been a little bit.
Unexpectedly.
Oh, yeah. Shit happens. It's like, what's going on with that?
Back out the
that thing
hospital.
on your hand, man.
Oh, my goodness. It's been a
Sit in
rough
for
week.
a story.
Oh, it's been a rough week. Right. I'll tell the story.
Yeah, might as well.
All right. So last Friday, I was at work, working away as I do, being, the hardworking man that I am. And I was just heading home, at lunchtime, as I do. And I was just on the way home. I was like, man, my hand's actually feeling kind of fucked up. And it was like really swelling. And then like I took a good look at it and it was like the size of a fucking basketball. Like it was getting really big and kind of purple. And I was like, all right, I should probably, this is probably not super normal. I assumed I'd heard it. Like I thought I'd punched the pad like an idiot or something and it was starting to swell. And I was like, all right, I'll go to the GP. I'll book in with the doctor. And then, somebody else saw it. And I went to the GP and they were like, you don't need to be here, man. You need to go to the hospital. That looks like all kinds of fucked up. So I'm like, okay, I'll go to the hospital and get an IV drip and go home. So this was last Friday. I went to the hospital. They took some x-rays and stuff like that. And they were like, yeah, okay. We can't really deal with this here. We need you to go to the specialist hospital in the city. That was Friday night. I didn't even think I was spending a night. I didn't go home till Thursday.
Almost
oh, so bad. And like the worst part was, it was not great, but it was better than, I don't know, the alternative. Like, I'm glad I didn't lose my hand or some shit. But it was like every day was like, you're going to have to stay another day. You're going to have to stay another day. Like, it wasn't like, I never knew I was like down for the count. It just kept, and they never really knew what they were going to do. I had like, surgery sounds very dramatic. Technically, I had surgery. It wasn't really like surgery. They cut me open and look, I don't even know what they did.
Just
yeah, I don't know what they did.
that looks a little bit ugly, but better remove it.
On Monday or Tuesday. But yeah, basically what I thought was kind of like an impact injury was actually I had picked up an infection. Yeah. Which, it happens in.
Hey, it's like people sweating and that, and it's like, when you got all this shit going on from this, like, yeah, like it's bound to happen.
Yeah, and look, like I was talking to you before we started, it was these things can get scary, man. Like I guess I'm just an optimist. I was always just about to go home from the hospital, and then after they sent me for like once they told me I was going to theater, I was like, okay, that's probably it's probably pretty serious. And then like when they came for my post-op review, the nurse comes around, she's like, all right, today we should get, as the swelling goes down, we should get good line of sight into whether you're going to be able to regain movement in your hand. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I didn't know that was on the table. But yeah, I had a couple of post-op reviews since they eventually finally let me go home. And it's all looking good. I just have to wait for the surgical wound to heal. So we good.
Fair enough, man.
Yeah, but
man.
Yeah, so that's my week.
Dude, at least it wasn't your voice, eh?
That'd be the end. But enough about me.
Dude, that's right. Yeah, we're meant to have Spring C on the other week, but we have to cancel that, so it should be on next week. But we have a guest in. If you're watching YouTube, you might see his face pop out every now and again. That's just how Zoom works.
I'm like probably our most requested guest.
Yeah,
of all time.
Yeah. And very highly spoken, like Angel Parnham, Nugget, Mark Peace, and that from there. So at the moment, what we got on the other side in South Australia, one of Muay Thai's like well-loved Muay Thai experts in Australia. From that one, it is the man himself, Pinky of Pinky Muaythai. How are you today, sir?
Yeah, I'm good, bro. How are you? What's up, boys?
Good.
Hanging in there. How's the city of churches?
Shit house. Cold at the moment, eh? I got back on Monday and it's been shit cold since.
Oh yeah, it's just that time of year, isn't it? Especially
yeah.
So Pinky, like when we get someone on first on the podcast, we always want to know the background stories. So like, that got you to here today. So how about you just start off, like, how did you actually first start into Muay Thai, or was it another martial art? And yeah, we'll just continue down that path. See how we go.
All right. Pretty simple, man. Like I'd done nothing. I'd done no exercise, nothing for years. Zero self-esteem, absolutely hated myself, hated my life, whatever. And a mate invited me along to do my first Muay Thai session. At that time, like he was training Sendokai and Muay Thai. And, like years later, my original trainer, he learned what Muay Thai was and stuff. But in the early days, we didn't, But anyway, he invited me along, and I was like, oh, what do I do? Zendokai and Muay Thai, I don't know what the difference is. And he goes, I'll do Muay Thai, it's cooler. So did my first session. That was like in 02. I was pretty, I was drug addict, alcoholic, all the good stuff. Good. And yeah, so I started training first night. I went home, and I was still living with my parents at the time. So I was like 20, I think, or something. And I said to my parents, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And they're like, yeah. And then, I quit my job about 6 months. I got myself fired so I could go straight on the dole about 6 months later. And, literally just started training full time before I'd even had my first fight. And then heaps of injuries. It took me years to get up to like 5 fights because I'd popped my shoulder out a pile of times. And then shortly after that, went to Thailand for a 2-week trip, which ended up being, that one ended up being like a month trip, and then went back for a month trip, which ended up being a 3-month trip, and then just snowballed. And then, a few years ago, 7 years ago now, I came back to Australia on a holiday and stayed. Once retired from fighting, and best thing I ever did was come back, actually. So sober, all the good stuff now, and living the dream.
Ah, nice. Excellent. Like going into like your fight career over there in particular. So did like when you started off fighting here and then went to Thailand, what was was there a huge kind of like, I don't know, shock or that, or like training in Thailand the first time? Like what was that experience like?
Like I went to Thailand thinking I did Muay Thai, and then I remember the first 2 weeks were okay. It was part of one of Hammer's IK magazine tours. And I thought I was doing okay, like just training in Muay and all that sort of shit. And then when I stayed on, I went to Bangkok and was training at Rompo Gym, like with the Magomedovs and all those boys and that. And my Thai trainer, the trainer held pads me on the first day, and he's like, you can't kick. And I was like, huh? And then literally I had 2 weeks of just kicking with my right leg, trying to get my right leg okay, good enough, before I headed back to Adelaide, to Oz in general. Yeah, but it was a different world. Like I soon realized the difference between what I thought I knew and what I actually knew. Big gap.
So you said that like you went for these trips, you'd intend to go for a month and you'd end up doing 3 and stuff like that, and there was a snowball. How long all up did you spend in Thailand?
It was first 4 years was sort of like probably 60 to 70% of the time.
Yep.
And then the next 5.5 years was full time, where I came back for a couple little trips here and there. One trip was like 2 months back here. I didn't come back for like 3 years, so I didn't have any money. And then when I came back, I decided to, try and work a little bit, make a little bit of money. So I stayed for 2 months then. Aside from that, it was like 3 weeks here. I'd come back for a visit, or 5 days here and there. But yes, I did 5.5 years full time, and then 4 years on and off.
Yeah, and of that time in Thailand, what was kind of the spread like as far as like, did you spend the majority of it? Because I've always kind of heard sort of your stories, but not had, I guess, always been curious about the actual sort of timeline of it. So did you spend sort of the majority of the time at the Rompo gym? I know you were out of kind of elite Thai boxing for a while. Like was there a large spread of kind of gyms that you sort of spent time in over there? Yeah.
I started. So when I first went over, I started in Muay, like at WMC camp.
Yep.
And then once I was staying on a little bit longer, I couldn't afford that. So I went and trained with a trainer named Muay in Choeng. I had my first fights in Thailand out of that gym. And then when I went to Bangkok, so I went to Rompo Gym originally. I stayed there for, actually, I don't know how long it was, maybe a couple of years, but was sort of on and off as I was traveling backwards and forward.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the big boss there was a bit of a snake, and used to just he'd send you off for a fight show and tell you you're getting 20,000 baht, but you're actually getting like 60, and he'd take 40 and then still cut 30%, that sort of thing. Pretty typical, really. And then so straight away I was on like the sponsorship style where you don't pay for training, you pay a percentage of your purse.
Yeah.
There used to be a lot more of that back in the day. It used to be a lot easier to get that, whereas not so much now.
A bit more saturated now, like more guys just trying to get that. Yeah.
So a few of us all left at the same time. We all went to Sot Chitlada, which is then went to be Windy Sport, then went to be Numpontep.
Yep.
Numpontep, yep. So we all moved over there at the same time. And I did there for maybe another year and a half. Yeah, actually, I can't remember time frame, I guess. But then I moved to 96 Penang Gym, which is like in the slums of Bangkok under a highway, where Samlan Chai was. Actually, Sit All used to be based out of that gym. It's very dingy, dirty, and no roof. It's just the highway is the roof of the gym. And I stayed there for almost 3 years, I think it was, and then ended up at Elite Boxing. Sort of when I was already on the retirement path.
Yeah,
I went to Elite Boxing, had my last few fights out of there, and then continued on as a trainer there afterwards.
Yeah, I guess so like you mentioned when you first went over there, you went to kind of the more expensive, I guess the more, traveler friendly, the WMC Muay camp was. Yep. When you decided you wanted to move, and that's a starkly different picture to kind of what you would have got at 96 Penang. Is that what was kind of the picture you had? Like, because you knew you wanted to kind of go over there sort of long term. Were you thinking you'd be somewhere kind of nice and cushy like WMC, or did you have that, or were you just unsure? Like there wasn't.
I think that's why I left there, because it was too comfortable. Maybe it was expensive, nice rooms, all that sort of stuff. So then I went to like a way more poxy gym, which was just on the edge of the lake in Chaweng. It was actually a really cool gym to train at. Wasn't many people there, but for me it was like I didn't really care where I was training. I was trying to make the most of it. Like I was kind of one of them people who couldn't train super hard anyway, because I've actually had chronic fatigue syndrome since I was about 14. And if I train way too much, I'd burn myself out. So I liked how the Thai style worked, where you plod along, and then 2 weeks out you smash it, or 10 days out you smash it. And without, I didn't really give myself a chance to burn out, because when I did, I totally fell to shit, and I missed out on some big opportunities because of it.
Yeah. Speaking of like, as you as a fighter, will like, if anyone sees you at the shows, from that you can't miss you. It's like love your style. Was that something that's always been a part of you, or something when you more so did fighting?
Yeah, I've always been a wanker. Like I've always been like I suppose more so with confidence, with self-esteem came confidence, which I'd never had.
Yeah.
I always was pretty beaten down as a kid, I guess, like bullied and stuff. And so I always loved the color pink, and I always wanted to be that person, but I never could. So I just wore black, and then, when I started to learn a little bit more about myself, about who I was, and I started getting some confidence, I was, pink hair and all the cool stuff, like I ended up being just an attention-seeking grub, really. And I still am. Like I love attention, but it's cool just to be me, though. Like I get to be me. I don't have to try and be someone, I don't have to try and be someone to fit in. I'm happy not to fit in, because I don't fit in at all. Like I'm loud. I'm inappropriate. I dress like a lady boy or whatever. But I just like to be different, man, and I'm just happy that I can be,
Oh, yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
I got to ask you, because we're really keen to get stuck into, the usual stuff, talking about, training philosophies and fights and things like that. But wanting to just focus on one thing about sort of your stay in Thailand that I always found really interesting is that, like, I've seen you kind of talk in the past a lot about you spent time in Thailand kind of trying to live that fight-based life, but, weren't, really earning those kind of big purses when you were fighting. So you did work over in Thailand to sort of make ends meet out. So it wasn't that situation of you sort of just brought your savings over and just chipped away at them. Like you were making a living there. And I've seen videos of you acting as an extra in TV shows. I've seen you singing. Like, walk us through a little bit of, what you did to pay the bills over there.
A little less politically correct than yourself. I was shit. So I couldn't live off of Muay Thai purses because I was actually like legit. And I've had people crack the shits because I say it. But I was actually like average or below average even, like as far as fighting went. I don't know whether I really even loved fighting. I just loved being part of it, and I would have to fight 3 times as much as some of my mates to get the same amount of money in my pocket. So the first sort of gig that came up for me was I've always loved singing like my whole life. I used to be a choir boy and shit when I was young. And I honestly thought as a youngster, if I had been more confident, I probably would have been a singer.
Yeah.
I don't do it much anymore, so my voice is shit. But I actually was just in a pub one night and requested a Thai song that I really liked. And they're like, "Oh, we can't sing it, but we can play it. Can you sing it?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I got up on stage and sung it, and then they offered me a job. So at one point I was making, I would catch the bus for an hour to go over near Khalsan Road, sing 3 songs for 200 baht, which is like $10, and then walk home, which used to take me about 4 hours to walk home. But that's how broke I was. It was so I had food money, and they'd feed me. So 200 baht and food money and food. And yeah, like when extra spots came up on movies, I'd jump on that and TV commercials and whatever I could. People always used to say, just start teaching English. Like there was good money, and when I was first there, you didn't need the TEFL, whatever it's called, whatever that thing's called, the English teaching course thing. You didn't need that. You could just teach English.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't have the patience for it. At least teaching Muay Thai, I can hit someone, what's going to look like if I belt some kid for not saying the right word.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't go down well.
No, not at all. So yeah, I stuck to things I didn't mind doing, which is acting and singing. Once again, showing off, getting to be the center of attention.
I just always found that so interesting, and like see the video. I didn't know about the singing until like I saw the video the other day. Like you can sing.
Yes, the state of mind is awesome. I like it.
That was actually that day of that video. I'd actually been in the studio all day, like recording, and we did a Bangkok version, Bangkok State of Mind, which got played at a few events, and it was quite a cool track. But ended up getting done for copyright because we used the original soundtrack.
Oh yeah,
original backing track, yeah. But yeah, it was quite cool.
Yeah, it was cool. And what about like, so when you were over there, did you formally go and study Thai, or did you just learn to speak the language just from being around?
It's probably my only regret that I didn't, because I speak pretty good Thai. Like I'm pretty good when it comes to my Thai, but I'm not very formal. Like I speak like street Thai.
Yeah.
I struggle to speak. I can speak politely, like leave out the swear words, similar with my English, I guess. But it's still not like proper. And I'm really good at reading, but because I've never learned how it works, I can't really write that well. I don't remember how to spell stuff because I don't know what sound goes where as such. But I can read it. I can read it fine. I kind of wish I was actually just speaking to my son's Thai teacher this morning about doing some formal classes to learn how to write properly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just carry a notepad and pen in a man bag, in a bum bag, and just when I'd learn something new from, usually in the bars, you'd learn most of it from the bar girls in the early days, I guess. I'd take out my little notepad and pen, write it down what I was learning, and yeah.
How long did you find you were there before you were sort of conversationally proficient in Thai?
12 months.
12 months?
Oh, it was actually when I was traveling backwards and forwards. I'd probably spent a total of, at that stage, 3-4 months in Thailand, and I could converse. I love languages though. Like languages is kind of my thing. So yeah, probably 3 to 4 months, and in Thailand I could converse reasonably well.
That's fast. Every time I've been there, I've been, people there try to teach you little bits and things like that. I've been like, fuck, I'm too stupid to learn this language.
I will admit though, when I was first going over there, which was like 2005, which even then isn't that early, but there was still a lot less of, English speaking anyone's around. Like, especially in the Muay Thai scene. The Muay Thai scene, it was still a very looked down upon sport at that stage. You didn't have rich people doing it. You didn't have educated people doing it. it was only like, oh, what would you do that for? You're from a country that makes money. Like, why would you want to be a fighter?
Yeah.
So now there's a lot more education around the Muay Thai scene as well, which gives you that opportunity to talk to educated people and whatever, which means probably less English and less Thai and more English. And
yeah.
And I lived in the slums with like, people who didn't speak a word. I never hung out with people who spoke English, I guess. Probably my main thing.
Yeah, I guess that I guess now it's a little bit more geared towards, like, if you're there as an English speaker, the environment is kind of keeps you comfortable rather than forcing you to adapt. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So it is very different over there now, like compared to 16 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
But I listen to people like, Daz and Wayne and all that talk about their times back in the 90s and stuff. It's like, man, I wish I was there then. I think I'm had it easy.
So speaking of which, they're like, what prompted the move to come back from Australia? Like, just go, that's it. I've had my Thailand trip now. And when you went back to Australia, did you have in mind to open up a gym straight away, or just see how it went?
So when I came back, I was battling pretty hard, like myself. Hey, like I'd got back to being an addict. I had a missus in Thailand and we'd broken up, and then I got straight back on it. And I was doing it pretty rough when I came back. And I think it was obviously something I'd always wanted to do. But when I came back, I didn't have the capacity to be able to do it. Like I was lucky if I was getting, getting by each week just with food in my mouth, It was definitely something I wanted to do, but I definitely wouldn't have, in the early days, I wouldn't have been able to. Like, it would have ended up being just a mess. And no one would have benefited from it. So when I finally started getting my shit together, and I'd obviously met my missus by then, and things were coming along. I didn't open my gym until I built the gym when we were like a couple of months pregnant. Started building the gym, and it's definitely the big driving force to finally just go off on my own and make my own living was having a boy on the way.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like you gotta say it's more than one mouth to feed. It's like you gotta hustle.
Yeah, it's for sure. Because I hooked up with my missus, and not a lot of people know, but my daughter's my stepdaughter. Anyone with half a brain looking at us would know that she's a full blood, and I'm not a Thai. So, but she's been with me since she was quite young. So literally the minute I met my missus, I knew I had to start actually working, like, and start trying to get my shit together. I'd already got off of, like most people know anyway, I don't care who knows, I was a heroin addict, and I got off that before I met my missus, luckily. Otherwise that relationship wouldn't have worked, I'd never be where I am now. So I got clean the July I got back. So next month will be 13th of next month is 7 years for me. And then I met my missus in the next April. Or not met her, I started dating her in the next April. We'd met a couple of years earlier. But so definitely, like as I said, coming back here, I'd love to have opened a gym earlier, but there's no way I could have. Yeah, it would have been a good house. Came back for a holiday and just stayed.
I guess kind of it's a pretty incredible story, really, to be sort of do that travel, and then like it's such a great thing that you kind of got back on the straight and narrow, I suppose, and benefiting from that, having beautiful family and a successful gym. I guess talk to us a little bit about I guess the early goings of the gym, and just describe I guess how things work at Team Pinky. If you'd say you guys have a style, talk to us about sort of how you run the show there.
All right. So the early days, I guess, was I had a heap of sort of false promises when I opened up that everyone was going to follow me from where I was working before, and I found I had a lot of cold nights in the early days. So July 5 is actually 5 years since we opened. And there was lots of nights of me just sitting there in the cold, hoping someone would rock up. It was kind of once Big Rig jumped over from the old gym and came across at the end of that first year, and we had our first fight for the gym, that we started getting a bit of momentum. I think people realised that it wasn't just a flash in, what's the word, flash in the pan, whatever it is. But I know as far as other people who come to us from other gyms, they're like, man, you train way more than anyone else. Like we have our fighter sessions are big sessions. Some of the guys start at 4:30 in the afternoon and they're still there at 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I don't see how you fit everything into a shorter session. And I have an aim to be, fitter, stronger, more conditioned than everyone else. So to do that, I think you need to put in the hard yards, and it's only, it's not for everyone, but that's okay. Hence, I don't have a lot of the guys stick around for a long period of time, because I understand that. Like, there's a lot of people have 3 or 4 fights and they're like, oh, this is way too much commitment. Cool, off you go. Like, I don't mind. If you want to go somewhere else, go somewhere else. Or if you want to stay, you want to stay. We do a lot of clinching. One thing I always sort of say is people always tell who my guys are if they see them in anywhere else. They see them kicking. We have like a particular kicking style, I guess. Most people can pick out like a Team Pinky kicker. Like most of the South Australian community can. They'll go up to someone in a normal gym, go, do you train a Team Pinky? Because they'll hit in the bag or something. We kick a lot. We don't punch a lot. We clinch a lot. That's pretty much lots of sparring, lots of clinching, and usual smashing of pads.
Yeah, that's it's like, I even think about myself sometimes, like, trying to plan training sessions. I go, I got to teach other classes, but these guys are here so another hour after training. But I go, I don't know what I can fit in that hour, because it just doesn't seem long enough sometimes.
Yeah, it's not long enough. Like,
yeah.
It's just not.
So we've got a normal. So it's different every day. Like I have a certain thing, have a certain setup for each day. Say, for instance, Monday is they go running. They just do like 4Ks to warm up, come back, skip for 20, shadow box for 15, then sparring for about an hour. Then, depending on what stage in their fight prep they're at, they either do 3 to 5 rounds on pads, then 3 to 5 rounds on bags, then finishing off stuff is depending also what stage they're at in their fight camp, whether they're doing 300 knees, 200 teeps, 100 leg chops, or it's 500, 500, 500 at one point. And then they do sit-ups, chin-ups, paint tins, like the neck exercises. So that's the Monday. Tuesday they swap out the sparring for clinching. Wednesday's a short day, but it's pretty horrendous. Like they warm up, they come back, they skip, all that sort of shit. Then it's 3 minutes of sparring. As soon as you finish that 3 minutes, you go straight into clinching with that same person. So you go through the 30-second break plus the next 3 minutes. Then you get a 30-second break to change partners, and then you go again. And that goes for an hour and 45 of just that. And it's just to wear them out, to make sure they're still sharp at the end of the hour and 45. And then they just practice their wiper run Muay after that. So it's a shorter session, but it's pretty hectic on them, I guess.
Yeah.
Friday is just a short sparring. They come in, they run. It's like they do 15 rounds of sparring. With that, there's about 5 or 6 different gyms come to us. I'm kind of like everyone's welcome. If you play our game and you're respectful and you don't try and take someone's head off, I'm happy to have you. It's where we've got Flinders with us, like Alan Wong's crew with us. Anywhere from 1 to 3 times a week, depending on their availability and stuff as well, when they got fights coming up, because they're open 3 days a week, so they come to me the other 3 days generally. Which is lucky as well. It means we've got more people for us to all train with, and makes it fun.
I guess like yourself as a trainer, like you mean, you got a little bit of an open door policy for other people to come and learn and train. Do you find across the board that's kind of a reciprocated attitude, or you find most people are a little bit more?
Recently, there's a few gyms that I'm quite tight with, because mainly because you've mentioned it on when you did a chat with Torren. I don't mind sharing knowledge, you know what I mean? And man, I've done in recent times, 2 clinching seminars just in Adelaide at other people's gyms. And I go there with 100% the plan to do it for free. Like both times they've hooked me up with some cash, but I don't give a fuck, you know, like, but it's the minority. There's a minority of people that are willing to share the knowledge. And man, and if some of the trainers in Adelaide knew that their guys come and secretly train with me anyway, there you go, cat's out of the bag. Maybe check on your fighters while they're improving. People preparing for fights who have zero belief in their trainer, but they stay there, you know, and they come to me and do one-on-ones.
Yeah.
It's and I don't care. Like, take my knowledge and go back to your gym and make your gym look better. That's okay, but just, at least their levels then coming up, which means our guys are going to have better opponents. So I don't mind, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a really, really productive attitude.
Yeah, because we're in it for the long haul. We ain't there for, you know, we don't care too much about the W's and L's. Obviously, wins are nice, but whatever. We'll take on whoever and whenever. And we've got a show here tomorrow, and tomorrow's like, oh, can we change this person's opponent? I'm like, yeah, don't care, whatever. Just give us whoever. I'm happy to be matched.
And I guess that's a good lead into, I suppose. I have always sort of understood that to be your philosophy. You know, you like you guys to be very active, not really fast on opponents. You guys do take big step ups in competition. Quite well known for stepping in.
Sometimes not the smartest idea. I don't mind stepping up. Like you've seen Jason's fought Albert. Yeah, and also Damon Nelson. Both of them not known for their knockout records, which is the only reason I'm willing to step up. I'll step up if they don't have a huge knockout record. Unfortunately, Jason got knocked out by Damon, but that's heavier than Jason should fight anyway, really. 67 is too big for him.
I thought that when that match was made, I thought that seemed big, maybe grown, but yeah.
Just his first fight back, he got up to like 80 kilos or something during lockdown last year, and even then we've been getting him matched, and then it'd fall through. Finally, the start of this year, we got him a fight. And I'd said it once before when he fought Carter Lawrence. I said no more 67 outside of SA. Like, I'm happy to fight 67 inside of SA because I don't believe we have the level here. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy for him to fight 67 here, but outside of SA, no, definitely not.
What's ideal? Sort of 63.5?
63 as a weight division, yeah. Like, his ultimate weight sort of 65 any day of the week, really. He's quite a big 65. He's just not overly strong.
Yeah.
But yeah, so 65 is a way better weight for him. 63, he makes it. It's not the most comfortable weight for him to make, but it's, you know, if he has to go for a title or something, that's what it'll be from now on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So talking about, like, you know, he's like taking different matches elsewhere. It's like you're very well traveled in terms of like, basically every state, everywhere, man. But it's like, how do you find like all the states, like the Muay Thai, like, you know, how's it scored, like, you know, the etiquette and that? Because, like, you know, you got a whole YouTube channel dedicated to, like, you know, like Pinky's rants, which is pretty popular. I mean, I like watching it as well.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
Love a good rant. Okay, but how do you think, like, you know, Australia as a whole at the moment? How are we going with our Muay Thai?
It's kind of like, it's very different depending on where you are. Like, obviously, WA is just miles above anyone.
Yeah.
It's actually, I said it during the commentary the other night that it's like world-class shows with no interstaters.
It's amazing, eh? It's absolutely amazing.
It's horrendous. It's like, you look at this show with like that many fights, and it's like, fuck. Like, I'd be happy to have one. I'd be happy to have an undercard one of those fights as a main event in Adelaide. You know, like, let me go state by state then. Like, Northern Territory. All right, let's move on to Queensland. Like, I've got some good feelings about Northern Territory. Like, my homie Tom Boyle was in Alice, like, and starting to put on show now. He's been a huge supporter of me. He gave me my first ring for my gym, gave me mats and stuff, so I didn't have any money. Like, he's a really good friend of mine. And always got my back, which is cool. And I think he's going to do some good things. He's good at business as well. He's good at promoting. So I think he can
he's
make,
right.
Yeah.
And Aaron's taking a bunch of guys up to the Northern Territory next month. So there's stuff going on there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Queensland, man, it was said in Nuggets podcast, it's been lost for a long time. The judging is probably one of the worst hates for it, if you ask me.
Yeah.
It's put your chin on your chest and start running, and you'll probably win.
Yeah.
I know people are going to crack the shits about that, but you know what? Fucking if it's it's a spade, call it a spade. You know what I mean?
But there seems to be like when you go up there in Queensland as well, they just accept it. They go, "Oh,
Yeah.
you're just gonna get a shit decision every second fight or so."
That's
really?
been the strangest thing to me about Queensland when you go there, because I love Queensland Muay Thai. I like when you go to a show there. There's a good, passionate community, and
sure.
it's very much a foundation state. Like, I love fighting in Queensland. I love being at their shows. Some incredible trainers there, but you'll go to there, and sometimes you'll go to a show and you'll see 3 or 4 terrible decisions in a row. And the kind of consensus attitude around the show, like with trainers, be like, yeah, that happens up here, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's very odd.
I think it comes back to, it's the Wild West, yeah? Like it always has been, always will be, I guess. But this is where they need to have some sort of board, like, which they don't have. They need, I think that's one thing that having all the government having their say, where that helps, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, because you don't then have the chance to just make up some random sanctioning body and do stupid shit. Like, you got to get sanctioning bodies passed. Then to have sanctioning bodies passed, your judges have to be like educated and all that sort of stuff. I think that's probably where their old Wild West style has been left behind, and is now going against them. It's like there's a lot of bad decisions up there. And but fun shows, like you said, fun shows to be at.
Great shows.
Yeah, I was up there for one of Ian Bronson's. Like, my missus had her first fight up there a few months ago for Ian Bronson's show.
Is that the bucking and fighting?
That was so fucking good.
That looked cool.
Oh my god! Like, to see like dudes get their faces slammed into a metal fence while sitting on the back of a horse. Just after watching my missus get punched in the face by someone else. Like, it was amazing.
Sensory overload.
Yeah. It was like, go home and it was like, how do you go to sleep after something so cool? Like, it was actually like, I was revving after that show. It was actually good fun.
But that's like kind of with the whole Wild West thing in Queensland, is like, there is something so endearing about it, is that like, if once you introduce sanctioning, you will not see a rodeo / fight show. Like, that's probably off the menu.
Oh shit!
With the bad.
Just the reasoning behind it though, like, makes so much sense. Like, because of the venue they use is this big open venue, which is literally just for rodeos and shit. So the amount of people you could fit in there, it was like just the Caboolture Showgrounds, and the amount of people you can fit in there is like horrendous. I think they probably still have like 1,000-person limit like now.
Yeah.
So it's a good idea, mix up a couple of events together. They had monster trucks, they had everything going on. It was sick.
Yeah, that's pretty sick.
Show rides and Ferris wheels and shit. Yeah.
Something for the whole family.
I went on the monster truck with Eli Madigan and our kids. It was actually quite cool, eh?
And it's actually probably not a bad idea to get like people that wouldn't have looked at Muay Thai anyway, like unless like because you go to the fight shows, it's mostly friends and family of the fighters, but then you're getting everyone else there like for other stuff. They go, hey, what's this over here? Look at people punching the fuck out of each other. Let's have a look at this one. And
exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Gets more people involved.
It's way better watching it in the ring than at a pub anyway. So, which is more what the bucking guys would probably be more expected to see. But it was good, awesome event, really good event. But a few shit decisions.
Yeah, I saw a couple of those.
Yeah.
What about New South Wales? We keep moving down the map.
Keep moving around. New South Wales, some amazing gyms and lots of Thai trainers, which is good. Some beautiful technique. I still think there's a little bit too many kickboxing minded people there, which is, I think, is everywhere. Like there's a lot of kickboxing people still around, not quite moving with the times. I think it could be quite healthy, but I think it's just a little bit too governed. That's probably
that's how big.
Like, let's set up a fines table at a fight show. Like it's like I took a guy with me to corner and not having any idea that he had to actually have like a corner pass, and so he came for no reason. Like that kind of shit. It's a little bit too much, But I think gym wise, like you guys have got some amazing trainers over there. Man, you just look at what Andy's team's got, as far as trainers go and stuff. Man, it's hectic, and even going further out west, take out the teeth and you get to Penrith, and got Reece opening his gym there as well, and that sort of stuff. There's lots of experienced trainers and lots of ties and stuff. You've got a lot of positives there,
Yeah, a lot going on here.
Yeah, for sure. And then good quality shows, but now that's kind of ruined with number restrictions and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's going to be hard for any state now to put on massive crowd events like ever again, I believe. But which I suppose then we're just going to do things differently to get more people watching online and stuff as well. And so I suppose from there we go straight into Canberra. Man, Kieran's an absolute beast, and
he's an animal.
Like what he's got going on and potential additions he's got to his gym coming up and stuff. Like, I've actually got Josh coming here for my gym's birthday to do a seminar.
Oh yeah.
In 3 weeks, so he's going to come over here, and that's got confirmed this morning. The
nicest dude of all time.
Oh my god, yes. And, Dave Penempede, who's everyone knows, or most people know, he's my favorite fighter in Australia, actually. He does need to adopt my fight name that I've given him, the Human, Dave the Human Penempede.
I can't see why he wouldn't.
Oh, I like to see him pull out that one day.
So I love what Kieran's doing. Victoria has so much, potential to be amazing, but the communism's there taken over, and it's unfortunate. It's the politics that's holding it back, like literal government politics, getting a chance to get the ball rolling again. Because you look at what Sai does, and when you got trainers, like Donnie and that there, it's amazing. Donnie's been one of my, he's been the little devil on my ear for years, like telling me how to do things, which we're quite close, and our families are close and stuff as well. I love what he does, and I see a lot of my gym in his gym,
Yeah, he was up the other weekend for our show. He's a great guy.
Yeah, for sure. And then then Adelaide is I think how do I even put it? Like, I think we've got some potential here, but there's way too many old kickboxing minds, like way too much. There's literally a handful of gyms that actually do Muay Thai. I do think, like, when I came back 7 years ago, I said, my whole aim was to change the game here, like change it to be Muay Thai, And now I'm seeing putting people in a little less prepared than they used to, like not training for 2 years for their first fights, and a lot less picky about their opponents. But there's still a lot of gyms that are really picky. They'll only take a fight if it's the exact weight that they want it at, if it's the exact, oh, sorry, your guys had one more fight than mine, or all that sort of stuff. There's still a lot of that going on. And
That's
I think
getting a lot worse up here. We've had some absolute doozies. Like, we've got a couple of boys, like one in particular, we got a real promising kind of 63.5 kilo boy that is just impossible to match. It's every show there's an opponent and it's on and then it's off. And it's for dumb reasons. Like, we had one the other week. I don't care. Like, I'm not mentioning no, I don't even know names, but whatever. If you hear it, you're a problem. Is that like that we couldn't match him, and that, you know, there was a fight the weight above. He only walks around about 67 kilos, and they said, you know, will you take a fight at 67? And we said, yeah, we'll take a fight at 60. The kid just wants to fight. He doesn't care. He'd fight every weekend if you let him. And then it was on for a couple of days, and then their side came back and said, oh, we didn't know your guy had 10 fights. My only guy's only had 6. Sorry.
Wow. And you know what, like, this is like, you've probably heard it in my rants before, where I talk about the lack of confidence in trainers. Like, man, like, have some confidence in yourself. Like, you've given up weight, so then they can give up a bit of experience.
That's how it works.
Yeah. That's right.
Man, like, for this show tomorrow, like, original matchup we had for one of my boys was, my boy had 1 fight at that stage. He's had 2 now. And I said yes to a guy who's had 6 fights. Like, you know, like, it's an amateur show. It's nothing, you know, super, you know, it's not like they're unpadded and shit or whatever. But I was like, yeah, that's all right. You know, padded amateur fight. Yeah, cool. Sweet. Let's go for it. Exactly.
I can't understand it. Like, I cannot understand. When I was in my first 10 fights, I was the same as our boy. Like, anything you got, I'll take it. I wanted experience. That's the whole point. That's literally the whole point of being an amateur.
How many fights had you had when you fought Mitch?
Maybe
15?
15 or less.
Yeah.
15 or less. Maybe 12 to 15.
I'm really shit, right? Like, until someone pops into my head, like into my face, I don't know who they are. So that was actually the first time I actually knew who you were, right? And they're like, you're like, oh, I love what you do, man. I was like, oh my God. Someone knows me. I'm actually like, I talk about myself and shit a lot, but I'm actually like, I am quite humble. Like, and it's actually quite crazy that I can be myself and people like are fans and shit. It actually freaks me out sometimes, eh?
Yeah, that's interesting that you bring that up. Yeah, because that was the first time I met you. It's like, and it brings me into a question I wanted to ask you, because how I met you is you were in the corner with Corey Implements. I fought Mitch on Roots down in Victoria, and I went over and did the handshakes and said, yeah, like, I'd never seen you before. I said, oh, I'm a big fan. I you know, watch your stuff online and stuff like that. I guess so. Like, my question from there is, like, you're in a lot of corners. I don't think anyone in Australia has cornered as many fights as you. So I guess how did that, was that always the way? Like, you were always kind of keen to guest corner? Are you putting your hand up to corner a bit? Like, how does it all kind of work? How do you find yourself in corners?
These days I get asked a lot. It actually started like, so back, before I'd fought, I think I'd already fought like 1 fight or something. And I was at a weigh-in for a Knees of Fury, and Jason Suddy was there and stuff like that. And I was talking to all those, or just talking to people, and I said to, I think, what show was it? I reckon it was Knees of Fury 6. I put up a picture of me and Nugget and that the other day, Nugget and Peasy, and yeah, so I think it was that show. And I'd met the Thais that used to come over for the shows through one of my old trainers. And I think I just asked them if they needed a hand. And so I jumped in the corner against Aaron Lee, and I can't remember who else I helped. I think I helped corner a guy named Sio Vitali against Paul Slawinski that night as well. I didn't know anything. I was just carrying a bucket, you know, like, and then it just became a thing where when anyone came to Adelaide, do you need a hand? Do you need a hand? I just loved it. And people used to, even Alan Wong used to think I was a wanker because I was always in everyone's corner, and people just thought I was like this ass sucker, you know, but it was actually just legit because I loved Muay Thai and I just wanted to help people, you know. I hardly even did anything. I'd be lucky if I fucking rubbed some ice on their leg or something, but it was just through the love of it. And I think I knew early on that all I ever wanted to do was be a trainer. I was going to be a shit fighter anyway. So I sort of wanted to, you know, use it to learn and see what other people do in the corner. And then, yeah, very, very shortly after, I was cornering people on my own and stuff in Thailand. When the guys would go down to fight in Phuket and stuff, I'd go down there and help corner them and all that sort of shit. But yeah, now wherever I go, I pretty much get asked. Like, I got asked on the weekend, like, to help Lyndon with Singpiak. And normally I say yes to everyone, but you know, it's hard. Like, me and Max have quite a good relationship, and I've given Max some advice and stuff over recent time. And it was kind of a bit of a conflict of interest, I guess.
Yeah.
And it hardly ever is, man. I've cornered against Dave Penapedi,
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah, because you did corner against him.
Yeah, it's pretty simple with a tie. You don't have to fucking tell him anything anyway. The tie's are going to do all that. Or when I cornered Samarpet against Tyler, the whole Samarpet thing is kind of like a friend of mine anyway. So it's, I cornered for him in that 8-man on Rebellion, and was getting instructions from Prem to give to him and stuff. So it was that was kind of cool as well. But yeah, I don't know. Just if people need a hand, whenever anyone comes to Adelaide, can you help me corner? Yep, no worries. And I still do. Like, I pretty much jump on every fucking show. And kind of Saturday night was actually really different for me because I think it was the first show I've been to in probably 10 years that I haven't had to corner for someone. I reckon.
Bit of a different perspective, I guess. Yeah,
it was cool. It was like, man, knowing that I wasn't gonna get any adrenaline pumping through me, and
yeah,
it was cool. It was quite cool.
Oh, that's good. Well, like speaking, you're saying about Max McVicker. Well, let's go into a few of the questions that was asked over Instagram from there. So, like Max asked a question, like, and we might have touched a little bit over it, but it's good to kind of like cap it off a bit. I guess he says, "What does the future of Muay Thai look in your ideal world, and then in reality?"
In my ideal world is nothing would be better than everyone working together. Like take the fucking politics out of it. Take the dicky fights out of it, like who's got the bigger dick and all that sort of shit. Like, because at the end of the day, like no one has a bigger dick than Muay Thai. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Muay Thai is the big monster. Like it'll be the best porn star out. But it's for me, it's everyone just needs to go. All right, we're on the same page. Everyone needs to understand the rules and the scoring. You do that and you get people to then educate their friends and stuff. So when they come to look, they know what they're looking at, for one. Two, everyone tell their friends who are coming to watch not to yell out, fucking smash him. Like, like let's keep Muay Thai classy, like, or get it classy, I should say, because it hasn't been classy like ever in Australia. Now I'm liking where events are saying, like, which I think I had a bit of a part in, but like no shorts, no singlets, like dress nice in the corner. Because I think, now there's a lot more mainstream audience looking at it. And if they see that everyone is like a little bit neat and everyone's proper and, has nice manners and there's no abuse, they see all that sort of stuff. It then, brings it into the mainstream, more in the mainstream, and everyone gets to go, everyone makes $1 from it. I think if everyone just stops competing outside of the ring and just compete in the ring, I think we'll be fine. But when egos are involved and everyone wants to be King Turd of the shit parade, it's always going to be an issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I actually see it going, probably where it's going right now. Like no different. I think it's just going to plod along, and there'll be sects in each state, which pretty much every state has the Muay Thai people, and then they have the WBC, WMC people.
Yes,
that's the way. That's the kind of way I separate it. Like anyone who believes a KFC belt is as important as a WMC or a WBC belt, they're the people I think still believe are holding the sport back as well. It's okay if you want to hand out belts, but don't actually talk them up. just replace trophies with belts or something.
Yeah, just give everyone a belt every fight.
Yeah. You get a belt. You get
what was on one of Size posts, like, where's the runner-up belt?
Yeah, give a gold and a silver belt.
That's kind of how I feel about it as well. Like, I did a rant about it recently as well. I don't know if I've even posted that one yet, but I kind of jumped on from, who was that talking about? Was that Sai that was talking about that? Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
I think it was Sai,
yeah. I'm pretty sure. Well, yeah, I think I jumped on after that and had my little say on that as well. Like, I'm all for, I've chosen with my guys now that if they if I honestly believe my guy is top 2 in the state, I'll let him fight for a state title. If they're not, I'm not just going to take it.
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh no, that person, but that and that person should be fighting, and then we'll challenge them for it if they whoever wins or whatever. If that's the case. And you know, none of my guys are good enough to win an Australian title at the moment, so I wouldn't put them forward for it. So that's where I'm at now. Like, I'm happy to fight for state titles if we're worthy of them. But the only other time I'll fight for, say, like, I'm willing to fight for an Australian title or something is if I believe someone is not worthy of it either, and I just want to take their belt from them. Like, you know, say there's a guy who's fought for a KFC Australian title, and he thinks, you know, he's talking himself up on socials. I'm like, all right, we'll take it. You know, we'll have a go against him if we get it, we get it. And then the promoting of the title ends right there once we take it from him.
Just go in there and kill the title off.
Like that. Yeah, exactly. Make it extinct. Yeah.
All right. So
I think there's too much egos involved to for the sport to ever really boom.
Yeah. It seemed like, you know, talking to like a lot of, like, you know, the people that have been in the game for so long, like Nugget and that, and Andrew Parham, and like they all have the same kind of feeling. Like that, it doesn't feel like yo, well, we are like it is state by state wise, but they just feel like the whole thing, like Muay Thai as a whole, doesn't seem like it's kind of trajectory isn't like forward and getting better and, like, you know, getting more eyes on us.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely, there's definitely a lot of issues there. And I think it just comes down to ego. Like, even, you know, people start gyms way too early now. Like, at what point, you know, when did apprenticeships finish? You know, like, man, I did like 12 years before I even, you know, thought about opening my gym, really. Like, you need to be able to run a gym as a head trainer. Okay, owning a gym, that's one thing. Maybe you've got a good head trainer that you've got employed, all that sort of stuff. It's a bit different. But if you're running a fighter gym and you're the head trainer and stuff, man, you need to know how to corner. And knowing how to corner isn't just handing them a bottle of water. It's knowing how to read a fight. It's knowing how, which we go back to why I've cornered for so many people over the years. Like, I want to know, like, every situation that can happen in the ring. And even then, just recently I've had a situation happen which I've never have happened before. And it's like, whoa, I've cornered for probably 2,000 fights or something. I don't know, like something ridiculous.
Well, yeah.
And recently was the first time I've ever had a girl cop a groin shot, and then the win given to the opponent. Like, that's a burst, but it's,
I saw like, this, yeah.
Yeah, so for me, it's like fighters who are not happy with their fucking trainer and opening their own gym. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Man, if you're still a fighter, I do believe as a fighter, you should not open a gym. That's my belief. Yeah.
It's too hard.
I think
too hard. Yeah. Because you're either detracting from your own career and to the point where you probably shouldn't do it, or you're just detracting from the people who you're supposed to be training. Like, it's got to come from someone, right?
Yeah. See, it's different. Like, Wayne's got a different situation because he's always got pad holders and he's got Angie and stuff. There's always situations where it can work. But as a whole, I think, you know, training for 3 years, 4 years, having a few fights, and then opening your own gym because you think you're better than your trainer all of a sudden. If you're better than your trainer, move to a better trainer.
Yeah.
Like, continue being a student. And if that means being training people on the side, like one-on-one and stuff, to start, you know, because you want to teach, cool, go for it. But I don't agree with being a fighter, a trainer at the same time when you've only had a few fights and only just started in recent years. And yeah, I think it just cheapens yourself as a trainer.
It's burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it's, you know, you might not, you know, burn yourself out as far as energy goes, but when your focus is on your students as well as yourself, makes it super hard. Like, I could have never fought as a trainer. Like, I hardly have enough time to fucking train.
Yeah.
Like, between, training my guys, and I don't hold a lot of pads. Like, I'll be straight up with that. I don't hold a lot of pads for my guys. I'd be lucky if it's one person a day. But just the amount of, on the phone with promoters and emails with the government officials and getting clearance and this and that and everything else, and making sure everyone's got their medicals and, to have your head on your training as well as that, man, it's crazy. Like to even think that it's possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
You spread yourself so much.
What was that? Sorry?
You spread yourself around so much, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you end up just mentally burnt out and your career ends before it should have.
Yeah.
Or it never really, you don't even really get your career to boom like it should have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's right. So let's just go like one more question for you. Well, it's actually a few people asked it, and I guess it goes into Muay Thai scoring. So you were there present for George Mann versus Charlie Bub. It's like, and it's like, and then the question was like, some people asked you to review it. Other people like, basically just wanted to know how the scoring worked as well. Like, and I know, like me and you talked about it. I thought it was pretty clear, but like, then we just got to think about like other people that just, like you said before, fight Muay Thai, but might not even actually watch Muay Thai. So what was your take on the George Mann versus Charlie Bub fight?
Okay, I'll start by saying like everyone loves to have an opinion, but opinions don't really matter when it comes to scoring. We had this chat before we got on anyway. Yeah. Opinion isn't what Muay Thai scored on. It's scored on technique, on certain skills and certain techniques and scoring shots. So George going backwards, countering, kicking into the arms, not just kicking into the arms, but like moving the arms across. Man, I don't want to take nothing away from Charlie at all. Like no one has given George a run like that. Like George's last two fights have been his two hardest ones he's had in ages. It's been, like obviously Charlie and then Dave. So I believe the first two people have really challenged George in I don't know how long, since one championship. And, the thing is, Charlie's arms got kicked. He got countered. And there wasn't, it's not like there was a big definitive moment in every round which makes it even harder then to for the people who think that it went the wrong direction. Because there's nothing like, oh yeah, well, this is what happened. No, because it was all just that, like George does, just enough to get a little bit, just score a little bit more than the other person each round. Thai style,
Yeah.
Don't do more than you have to. That's just silly. Like, but rounds 1, 2, 3, and 5 were to George. Round 4 clearly to Charlie. But it was because there was no super damaging shots and nothing that puts someone on their ass or 8 counts and stuff. People struggle to see how there was actually a clear win to George. And I don't, I'm not going to back away from if someone wants to argue with me about it, but I know to me, anyone who knows Muay Thai knows that George won that anyway. Like, and I mean Muay Thai, real Muay Thai. I mean, like, people fight Muay Thai, people train Muay Thai, people teach Muay Thai, but knowing how the scoring and that actually works, it's actually not that easy to get your head around.
It's a different animal to just doing it. Yeah. Yeah.
When you're the average Joe watching Charlie walk forward on someone and throwing lots of hands and move constantly putting the person under pressure, I understand why they see what they see. But keep your fucking opinions to yourselves.
Yeah. Well, another point
from George.
Yeah. Another point that you made coming on, that is worth repeating is people, when you start arguing about decisions, is they say, this was a robbery because, in my opinion, like that's how they frame it. And it's such a, this is a central issue with scoring. Is like, you've already made your point redundant because like when you watch a game of football and someone kicks the ball into the goal, that's a goal. Your opinion will not change that. And that's the same as Muay Thai scoring. If someone is scoring the points in line with the scoring system, they're winning it. It's not like judges aren't asked for their opinions. They're asked to interpret and reflect what happened. And oftentimes they are incorrect, They have not interpreted the score correctly. And also, like, I feel the need to frame, because I got a few messages after this. People said, "Can you explain the score to me?" and stuff like that. And I always have to shoot back because people just ask me questions because I'm a dickhead and I have a podcast. I don't pretend to be an expert. We didn't start a podcast because we think we're experts. I always say back, look, I am not an expert in scoring. I'm trying really hard to learn. I'm learning with Trevor and Elias. I'm doing some judging now, which is the other thing that brings me to another thing. If you're always on Facebook saying this happened and that happened, if you haven't been to a course, shut up. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I struggled with it. I struggled with coming back to Australia going, how the fuck did that happen? Like, because man, as I said, like 9 years in Thailand, that's a different ball game as well. The way it's scored, you know, is very different. Like, you know, in when you talk to a Thai and you tell them that punches score the same as a knee or whatever, here, people, they're like, huh? How is that even possible? You know, like it's coming here. I was like, okay, so everything's a scoring shot as long as it's a clean scoring shot, like as long as it's a damaging shot sort of thing. Okay, like that, it took me ages to get my head around that. And that's from someone who knows Muay Thai. You know what I mean? Like, let alone some spud who gets on Facebook, watches some YouTube, watches one championship and flicks straight from one championship to YouPorn and thinks he's making good decisions in life, you know? Like, but they want to sit behind their phone and give an opinion. Like you said, opinions mean fuck all.
Yeah.
It's Muay Thai. Like, it's not based on opinion, it's based on scoring shots.
And I think people don't get that sometimes, is that there is you know, an inarguable system of scoring. Like, I think when people start going, yeah, but I saw that, like, you need to come at it from not from what you saw, but what is the scoring system and start to reach that. And some people, I really feel they will argue till they're blue in the face about decisions, but have never actually sat down and tried to learn. They just learn from just watching some fights, watching local fights and or even fighting themselves. Like, I hate when I see someone in an argument about a decision, they go, but I've had 15 fights. And I go, that doesn't mean anything. Like, I know heaps of fighters that are good fighters that are dumb as shit judges. Like, they just have no idea how to score a fight. It doesn't mean you know the rules of the game. It doesn't mean you know how to score a fight.
That's nothing to defend. No defense on your part if you think because you're experienced you can be a judge. But the same goes for being a trainer.
Yeah.
Like, just because you're experienced doesn't mean. I think I did a rant about that as well once. And got four inboxes from people saying, "Is this about me?" And I was like, "Well, if you think it's about you, then it's probably about you."
I always have to say that too. If you have to ask, the answer is yes.
What an ego, though.
It wasn't just about you, but if you have to ask, congrats.
Yeah. And it's good where, you know, judges, like on Saturday night, you've got people who are very experienced. You know, like, man, I was sitting directly opposite Oliver Olsen, who has been around forever. You know, and Bill Seth was in as the ref or whatever. You know, they got good judges, and they're not playing the ego game. Like, I hear it with judges in post-fight meetings and stuff where they're actually going, "Oh, but I saw this. Oh, but this. Oh, but that." Man, how the fuck did you see something that didn't happen?
Yeah.
Like, I believe, like, you lose the right to have an opinion when you're a judge. You no longer have that choice. Like, your opinion now means fuck all to anyone, because your opinion now ruins someone's fucking record.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your ego, like, you can't have an ego, you can't have an opinion. You've got to be able to see straight down the line.
Yeah.
There's one guy here in Adelaide who's a really good friend of mine who's a judge, who I believe is the best judge South Australia has ever had. And people have had a dig at him after fights because he's scored our way and everyone else has scored, the other two judges have scored the other way. But I fucking tell you, it was a fight like Jason fought, you know, Sugar, whatever his name is. Yeah. Man, that dude's skilled. He's good, you know, and Jason fought him. And I believe we got ripped off. Like, and I never call it, you know, like on a fight night and go, that's a fucking, you know, whatever. And I generally don't put it on Facebook or whatever. But it was actually would have been a fair decision to go our way. It was close, and so it didn't really bother me because Jason did an amazing performance. This judge went our way, right? He was the one judge that went our way, and the other two argued till they were blue in the face that they were correct. But their whole argument didn't even stand. Like, didn't even mean anything, you know? It didn't actually make sense.
Yeah.
So it's that whole, you know, I want to be the right one. I want to be correct.
Yeah.
And it's not about reaching a consensus. It's about being right on their side. It's not, you're not trying to achieve anything but assert themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's you've got to, if you are getting questioned regularly on decisions, fair chance you don't know what the fuck you're doing. Either educate yourself or quit. And
the worst thing you can do if you're repeatedly making mistakes is to just double down and say, no, this is why I'm right. Because you're only you're reinforcing what you don't know, and just trying to excuse your ability to be wrong rather than go. And look, we're all guilty of doing this in some area of life, I believe. Instead, you're just going like, no, this is why I'm correct. And you're just going to now, out of stubbornness and on purpose, continue to make the same mistakes.
Yeah. I think it's way too much. No one knows anymore how to admit they're wrong anyway. Those, you know, everyone's worried about saving their own face oh man, I can't admit I was wrong. How can I admit that I fucked up that? Man, you admit you fucked up, people actually go, good on you. You know what I mean? Like 9 out of 10 people would. The only person who wouldn't is probably the guy that got ripped off. But it's, like you can't just expect that you know what you're doing. If you're not 100% correct all the time, there's a fair chance you could be wrong sometime.
I'm wrong far more than I'm right. I'm not.
You shoot your shot.
I'll be straight up, right? I think my understanding of Muay Thai, the whole picture, including culturally, spiritually, how the sport works, how the judging, how it's scored. I think I have an amazing understanding of it all, right? Without blowing my own trumpet, but I'm not a judge for a reason.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I do a good job of it, honestly. You know, my main reason is because I'm always cornering on every fucking show, and I don't have time to judge. But I honestly, and it's got to the point where it's so wrong so often that it's become so thankless. So the people who are doing it right are still, they're the ones who are doing it right, and you know, they're now the split every time, and they're copying the shit. So it's so thankless when they're doing the right job, you know.
Yeah, it's a kind of a job. Yes, for sure.
Respect the officials. That's one of the things we're lucky for here. Like, you know, when you come to the shows in New South Wales, and Trevor and Elias are running around the place, they are like,
they're
real top tier dudes. Not just in, obviously, they're as good as officials as you could possibly ask for, and they give a lot of their time to teach the next guys. But the way they run the show as well, it's like they're really impressive.
It was like when I saw Elias at the back of, like, before your fight, and he said, "Shadow refereeing."
I love that.
This is awesome.
Yeah,
seeing it. Yeah, it's great.
He's in the back warming up like a fighter warms up to fight. It's so cool. Yeah, like I said, like you reminded me of that. Elias warms up to ref.
I've known him for a long time through like the IFMA and stuff, like meeting him at the IFMA World Titles and stuff in Bangkok when I was based over there, and he's quite a good friend of mine as well. And I just because he's my friend, I'm not paying him a compliment, but he's actually, like, his ability to what's the word, like, put it into words and stuff and actually make you understand how it works. I did the judging seminar with him over here a couple of years ago, and things that I already thought I knew, but I didn't know why I knew it. Like, it's one of those things I could just see why I knew how someone had won or whatever. He actually made it so much easier for me to even understand.
Yeah.
Because I went into it without an ego, not going, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing, I'll be right.
Yeah.
I went into it open.
So well.
Yeah. And he's amazing at teaching it. And same with Trevor. Trevor's good, you know, he's and I love how energetic he is in the ring as well. Like, he actually makes it fun, like screaming his fucking ass off, like, to get instructions across and stuff. I love that, Has a ball in there. I'd gap out.
Plus, like I've never seen a ref like put his body on the line like Trevor has.
Yeah. I'll give that. Like probably the only one I've ever seen in Australia aside from him is Nugget. Like dive into the ground to catch someone's
dive.
head.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. All right, man. Yeah, I think it was like we'll kind of cut off from there. Fuck, we could talk for hours though.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to be a repeat guest, I think.
Man, anytime, legit, anytime. I'm always keen. Like I love talking. So, yeah, I'm keen as.
Yeah, like I said, or like you've heard me say on here, and I have said, like I send you questions all the time whenever I see a post that's from Thailand. I want to know something. I always ask, and you're always so generous with knowledge. I know not just with me, but with anyone who wants to know anything. So you're a great source of info for the Australian Muay Thai community.
I don't own Muay Thai, so there's no secrets. It's just so I might be able to interpret something better than someone, or I might understand it, or especially a lot of things is translation stuff. A lot of people hit me up for, what does this mean? Yeah. Like when it's written in Thai and stuff.
When I send you those, I'm like, fuck, I can't do this too much because everyone's gonna ask Pinky to translate everything for it.
But I don't really care, Like I'll usually voice it anyway. I don't write it because I'm shit at typing. So, but yeah, like anyone wants to ask me questions, I'm always keen. Like I don't give a fuck. Hey, that's why I'm self-employed.
True. So like, yeah, I'm saying that from there, like, where can people best reach you? Is it that Facebook, Instagram, or doesn't really matter?
Instagram's my fave, I guess. Team Pinky Muaythai, like with underscores between each word. My private Facebook is Pinky Donald or Team Pinky Muaythai on Facebook. Most prefer, Instagram, but whatever. I've got my Team Pinky Muaythai page on YouTube as well. So if you want to hear me rant, and yeah, if you I've got my Snapchat if you want to see my dick.
A bit of sign up. Cool, man. Look, awesome. We really appreciate you coming on here and just dropping some knowledge and having a chat, man. It's been awesome.
No, I appreciate you having me. Yeah, legends.
All good. So we'll play an intro, but stick around a little bit after that, okay?
Easy done.
All right. So everyone else, remember, like, subscribe, share to everyone. Okay. Share the love.
See you next week.
See you then.
If I stay at a hospital.
Yeah. See you. Hopefully.